All right. Good morning, everybody. It's week 4 of our 5-week webinar of having a calmer dog. This week is jam-packed. I'm going to try covering a lot in a little amount of time. And honestly, things that we can talk about today could all be individual weekly webinars on their own. So I'm going to try covering a little about a lot, but I'm more than welcome to accept questions. Okay, I'm trying to get where I'm the main person. Why are you the main person, Margie? No, I don't know why. It's just, oh wait, no, huh. Okay, anyway. Margie, you might be. Don't pick your nose or anything, Margie, because you're highlighted. Okay, we'll just do that. I don't know. I don't know why I can't get where I'm the main person. Okay. Anyway, I can't waste time on technical stuff. We'll figure it out later, but we're working on impulse control today of how to have a calmer dog. And what I mean by impulse control is to stop the lunging on leashes, to stop excessive barking, to stop possible reactivity when you're walking your dog, and to stop jumping. As you remember on week 2, I really focused just on preventing your dog to jump in general. So again, I can have a webinar on just any of these topics on their own. So to review, our first webinar was exercise as a key to calming your dogs. The next webinar was talking about training, just general training on your dog's not jumping. Last week, we were discussing brain games on how to have a calmer dog. Remember, the more your dogs know, the more they're going to look to you for direction. And it's very important that you set boundaries within your household so that when you are out and about, your dog will look to you for guidance and direction in overstimulated situations. If you don't normally have guidelines at your home, your dog's not going to look to you for those guidelines when you're out and about, and they will probably have a very hard time responding to you when they're overly stimulated if you're not normally setting boundaries or guidelines in your home. So overall training is just really important to continue for a lifetime with your dog, to just give them the guidance that they need. But I do find a lot of times clients will say, well, clients don't set boundaries in the home, or they start training and then the dogs have known the behaviors, and owners just get a little bit slack on continuing to train the dogs. That's why I think this webinar is fantastic. And continuing with classes, we have ongoing classes okay, Zazu, thank you. Thank you. Okay, yep, I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you. Ooh, I hope that works. Good girl, sweetie. Okay, it did. It did. Continuing classes to help keep all of you motivated as well. So with impulse control, there's various locations that you're dealing with impulse control. You can be dealing with your dog barking outside the door, outside your window in the front yard, around your boundaries of your house. They could be barking outside of your car. There's impulse control when you're walking your dog, and impulse control as you're going to the beach, or when you're at the beach, or if you're at a park. There's a variety of places that you're working on impulse control, but remember that impulse control starts in your home. And I will say all these webinars, even though I've broken them down into pieces, all these webinars are ways to help calm your dog. You might pick one way over others, but using them all together is going to be the most beneficial. And how I know this is through the number of boarding school dogs I've had. I've trained thousands of dogs, other people's dogs in my home, and I really know and see what works. So what I find, the first thing is the exercise. And then the second thing is working on impulse control and what I'm about to talk about. So I'm working on sit for everything. If I have a dog that's sitting, they can't jump. When I let dogs out of their crates, if they're crate trained, I'm always asking them to stay or wait in their crate. I'm not allowing the dogs to barge out of the crate, because if I open the door and they barge, what I see is then they start jumping because they're very, very, very excited. So if I ask my dogs to stay and then, okay, I let them out, I can normally they're clear-headed, I can ask them to sit again instead of them jumping on me. I always ask dogs to stay and work on them not barging out of my doors when I take them for walks. If you have a dog, we talked about this earlier, if you have a dog that pulls you out the door to go for their walk, you're setting a precedence for your walk, that the dog can barge and, okay, let's go, let's go. So I make sure that I can open my house door, crates, and the dogs will not get out until I give them my release. My release is okay, and okay means that they can go out. And then normally, again, they're not in a heightened state of arousal. I can give them the next bit of direction. Waiting for food. So, my style of training is reward based. So I use a lot of food as a way to reward the dogs. So when I'm feeding breakfast or dinner, I use that as a training session to have them wait for their food. And it depends what I'm doing with their training, but I'll put a little bit of food in their bowl, put the bowl down, and then tell them, okay, when Margie's dog, Sunny, stays at the house, I have a handful of food and he can't have the food until I say, okay. And hopefully he doesn't eat my hand along with his food. He's a lab, so he's a vacuum cleaner. But those are great ways to work on the impulse control with the food, because dogs love food. So that's another way that I'm really working on the impulse control. And then no jumping. I really work on the dogs not jumping. And that's pretty hard at my house because the dogs are with one another. When one dog jumps, other dogs will jump. They play off of one another, and that excitement can be a lot for the dogs. But I work on off and sit and then try to give all the dogs the attention that they're looking for, so I don't have the dogs jump on me either. So those are ways that you can do today to work on impulse control. Now, if you're using a crate or you're working on threshold training, and what I mean by threshold is walking out your front door. My front door is this way. That's why I keep pointing that way. But you can have your dog on a leash and hold on to the leash lightly. If you hold on to the leash tight, they know that you're holding on to them. So you're doing the thinking for the dog, but hold on to the leash loose. Open the door. If they go to barge out, pull back on the leash and tell them no. Close the door again and repeat, 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 repeat. And then what I'll do is I'll drop the leash. This might be in the same session or in a couple days, depends how the dog's responding to me. But I'll drop the leash and I'll open up the door and I'll reward the dog for staying. The leash should be available for me to step on if I needed to do that, but I drop the leash so I'm not holding on to them, open the door and reward them for staying. Then my next step would be I walk out the door just a little bit and I reward the dog for staying and not coming out. When the dogs can come out is after I release them by saying, okay. Now with the crates, I open the door a little bit. If they go to barge out, I close the door. I open it a little bit. If they go to barge out, I close the door, and I'll repeat this. And again, I'm a training geek. It's kind of fun to watch the process in their mind, but having them stay and not barge out of that crate, very, very beneficial. So those are things that you could start today. Now, I do want to say, if this is something that you're going to start today, there's going to be a learning curve if you've just allowed them to bust out of the house or barge out of the crate. That's what they're used to. So you all of a sudden closing the door or closing the crate can be a little confusing for the dogs. They might try to get out faster because that's what they're used to. And then they're going to try getting out before you close the door. So just be aware of that and know that those are common things that could happen with the crate or threshold training. Now, another thing within your home is working on go settle or go to your place. And what that means for me is that the dogs will have a bed or a cot, and I'll tell the dogs to go settle, and they stay there until I release them. This is so beneficial. It prevents counter surfing. It prevents the jumping up when guests come over or when you come in the house. It can also help prevent the barking. But I try working up to a 20, 30-minute stay on those settle spots. It's a long stay, but it is very beneficial. A client once said, "Oh, it's kind of like doggy meditation." And that's exactly what it is. Dogs don't know to turn themselves off. They're always listening and looking for things, but working on those nice long stays, they realize that you have control over the household and they don't have to be on all the time. And I really find that that helps calm the dogs. Now, for a 20 to 30-minute stay, the first 3 minutes are the hardest. The dogs want to get up and move, get up and move. Again, I like to use the cots. At week 2, you noticed a cot, a raised bed. It's a bed 1 to 2 inches off the floor, and ask the dogs to go settle on that cot. It makes a very clear, distinct place for your dogs to go and settle. It's less likely that they're going to come off the cot. I'll put a link in the newsletter, but you can look up raised dog beds, and that's beneficial. I do have those Costco beds that are fluffy. I use those as well, but I do prefer the cots for the go settle. One thing that I'll do is when I'm first teaching this to a dog, the long stays, is I'll keep the dogs on a leash, because when they get up, not if, when they get up from that stay, I can take the leash, tell them no, and I'll bring them back to that settle spot and I'll tell them to stay. The leash is an extension of your dog. So you don't have to run around and chase after your dog to get them back on their settle spot, which would probably be a fun game for most dogs. So having them on leash to redirect them to go to their settle spot, very beneficial. But that's a goal that you could start today. Just work on 1 minute a day, having a nice long settle. Those of you who have been in my advanced obedience classes, you know that we work on long stays in class with a lot of different distractions around. Again, doggy meditation, very beneficial to having a calmer dog. Now, for dogs that are impulsive in the car, so bark at other dogs when you're in a car, there's different things that you can do. First of all, if you have two people in the car, which is beneficial, is have the second person be able to have a clicker and treats and click and reward the dogs for being quiet in the car. Or if you see a trigger that they would normally react to, such as another dog or a bicycle, click them for not barking and then reward. So you really need two people for that. I have before had my treats readily available, and my puppy Zazu, she's starting to bark out the car as I'll just call her name. Hey, Zazu, Zazu. And I'll reach back and give her a treat. I won't use the clicker at that time because obviously I'm driving. Or I'll take a handful of treats and I'll boop, toss them in back. So she's busy finding the treats in the car. So that's one way that you can work on the dogs not barking out the car. Another way that you can work on the dogs not barking out the car is transport them in a crate and cover the crate so that they cannot see out. A lot of times the dogs are reactive towards other dogs walking or bicycles or other cars. So use a crate covered so that you cannot see out. There is a product, it's called the calming cap. And what a calming cap is something that goes over the dog's eyes and they cannot see. That's something that you would have to train them at home to be comfortable. But in the car, they just have a blindfold on in the car so that they cannot see out. So depending how reactive your dog is, you could think about using a calming cap and write that down. So I make sure I put a link in my newsletter about the calming cap, what that is about. I'll send that to you. So that's another way that you can help your dog so that they can't see out. And keep in mind, having a barking, lunging dog in the car can be very distracting to you, and it can be very distracting to others around you. It can be quite dangerous. So really think about using these different techniques to calm your dogs in the car. Now, how about barking in general? So Kate and Bill were on here some webinars ago, and they had mentioned that their dogs bark when they hear somebody locking their car doors in their neighborhood. And after further discussion with them, they had discussed that their one dog, Ruthie, is the instigator. And again, having one dog, the other dogs are more than likely going to follow the one dog. So I asked them to try to get Ruthie, excuse me, and put her inside a room with the door closed. Or I asked them to ask all of them to go settle and stay. But more than likely, taking care of the one instigator, putting them in a room away from the others is going to help. I'm going to be honest with you guys. As surprising as this might sound, I was the instigator in school in
Yeah,
junior high. I was put in the hallway quite a bit. So I was removed from my classmates so that I wasn't the distraction.
I'm on a Zoom.
So it did work until the next day. Then I did it
It's
again.
a Tammy Zoom.
But then when I had to meet with the principal, then it was really bad. And I didn't want to meet with Sister Louise again. So yes, taking the one instigator away from the situation can help the others concentrate a little more. Barking, general barking through the fence or out the front windows. That was talking about Kate and Bill was barking at the sounds, but barking at the fence or through the windows. So keep in mind, if your dog is barking outside windows, normally they're barking at people walking by, or they're barking at the mail person delivering the mail. When your dog barks and these innocent walker buyers walk by and continue with their walks, your dog thinks that they did a good job of barking the people away. So it's a self-reinforcing behavior. Same with the male person is they bark when those big trucks come. The person drops off your package, they bark, 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 and the person drives away. Yay, I did it, I did it. So things that I will do. I have mentioned before, my Peehee dog, she's a very, very big barker. So when I know that people are coming to the house, I will put her away in another room so she cannot see or she cannot hear as well when people are at the door. Another thing that I'll do, and I did that with Zazu earlier, is I'll just say, hey, thank you. Okay, got it, got it. And it worked that time, but I know I'm going to have to do it again. Just telling your dogs, thank you, I hear you, I hear you. Barking outside at the fence. I'll call the dogs in and reinforce them with a treat or some love to help redirect the dogs. And sometimes, like Peehee knows this trick. She'll go to the fence, she'll bark, bark, bark at the fence, and then she'll look behind her and wait for me to call. I'll call and I'll still reinforce her because when I get her in, at least it broke up the barking. So that's beneficial. You can also ask your dog to do something else before reinforcing them. So it's not an immediate bark, 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 ask them to come and then you reinforce. It's bark, ask them to come and then ask them to sit or go settle. And then you can reinforce in a little bit so that they don't learn that chain reaction of I'm going to bark at the fence. My mom's going to call me. I'm going to get a reward. Break it up a little bit for the dogs. Those can be ways to help your dogs from barking at the fence or through the windows. Utilizing crates, again, don't be afraid to utilize crates. If you're not home, don't be afraid to have your dog in a crate or in a room that's safe for your dog. That's setting your dog and your household up for success. I believe in Hawaii, there's a 10-minute rule of the dogs cannot be barking excessively for 10 minutes. Otherwise, you can get in trouble. But when you're not home, it's harder to redirect the dogs. People will ask about bark collars, and I have used bark collars before. There's many, many different ways. There's the citronella collar where it sprays, a citronella spray. There's vibration collars where it gives a little vibration through the collar, or there's the little e-collars, the little stimulus collars where it feels like a static shock that you receive when you're on carpet and you touch something. So those are different kind of collars. And I've used all of them, and it depends upon the dogs. But what I'll always try doing first is calling them in and redirecting them. But if they're barking excessively, then I might use a collar. The one thing I will say about collars is that they're not to be left on 24/7. And also you do want to use a high quality collar. You don't want to skimp on a collar, because if the collar is reacting when it's not supposed to, it can be very confusing and damaging to the dogs. So using a high quality collar, you want to invest, you want to put money in it. You don't want to skimp on the collar. And I'm not saying the collar is your first line of attack. I would like you to try the other solutions that I gave as first. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I get super, super frustrated and I'll yell at the dogs, hey, quiet, shut up. But to be honest, I'm barking right along with the dogs. So sometimes the dogs can be like, hey, okay, mom or auntie joined in. Let's keep on barking. So that's why I've now tried to revert to, okay, it's okay. Thank you for letting me know. I have tried using a shake can and sometimes just the noise of the shake can. Shake can is an aluminum can or a plastic can with some rocks or pennies inside that you can shake that makes a noise. That can be enough to help redirect the dog. Um, Sometimes a squirt bottle. I've used a squirt bottle as well to help redirect the dogs too. So those are all different management tools that you can use. Teaching your dogs quiet. So when they are quiet, letting them know good quiet, quiet, and rewarding them for being quiet can help as well, making a distinction between the barking and the quiet. Okay, so barking. What I'm going to do now to break this up a little bit, I'm going to try sharing my screen again and show you some of the things that I do with the dogs when playing with them that helps with impulse control. So this is another thing that I'll do with the boarding school dogs. I use a lot of toys to play and reinforce the dogs as well, other than food, but these are some things that I'll do as well with the dogs in boarding school when I'm playing with them to work on their impulse control. Okay, here. Yeah. Anything to make your dog wait for something that they're excited for. Write it down. Good. Stay. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, you don't get it. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, leave it. Good girl. She's really excited. She loves her toys. She loves to chase things. Okay, little cup. Touch. Touch. Oh, yay. Wait while they're really excited. She's about 5, 7 feet away from me with her frisbee. Lay down. Asking her down from me to good down. Good girl. Good down. Down. Good. Okay. How about I do it with stay. Look down. Good girl. Okay. This is great impulse control with it. My good girl. I wanted to show you the flirt pole. So I've mentioned this a couple times in this webinar. And honestly, it's a dog toy, but the best way I can describe it is one of those cat toys that have the feather or something at the end where the dogs or the cats chase it. Now, the flirt pole is great because again, you can work with impulse control. You can get the dogs crazies out and they like it because it deals with their prey drive. They chase it. So a lot of times they like to chase things. There's a couple key notes that I want to make with the flirt pole for safety. First of all, if your dog is under 1 year of age, you might not want to use this often. Now Zazu is only 6 months, so I'm going to just show you a quick clip of me playing with her, but I'm going to keep it down low. I don't want her jumping high just because she's still growing. And then with your older dogs, you want to be careful because obviously you don't want to strain anything for them. So be careful with that. You want to play this on a flat surface so that they're not running into any holes or little divots in your yard. And also be aware that this is a bungee. So if they're pulling at it and they let go, it's going to come flying back to you. But ways that you can do this is you could see Zazu got very excited when I had it. You can
work on sit or down. You can reward your dog and let them play with it for sitting or lying down when you asked. You can work on leave it, so they leave the object that they really want alone. And also you can work on stay. You can ask them to stay and then leave the toy. That, again, can really help with their impulse control. So a lot of things that you can do with toys in general that can help with impulse control. But this flirt pole, you'll find that they get really motivated, and it's a great way to just work on calming them down before they're playing with something that they're super excited about. Zazu, sit. Good girl, good sit. And I'm going to keep it down real low so she's not jumping up and trying to grab it. Good girl, Zazu. Okay, Zazu. Zazu, leave it. Good, leave it. Good, leave it. Oops. Sit. Good, sit. Good. Lizard. Zazu, sit. Good, sit. Good girl. Okay, get it, get it, get it. Get it. Good girl, Zazu. Okay, Zazu. Zazu, leave it. Zazu. Zazu. Zazu, leave it. Okay, now both my dogs are. And Zazu. Zazu, down. Down. Zazu, down. Zazu, down. Good. Zazu. Good, down, Piggy. Zazu, down. Zazu, down. Sister. Zazu, down. Zazu. Zazu, down. Okay, I've asked Zazu to lay down a couple of times. I'm trying to work with her not having a treat. Zazu. Sit. Sit. You can see she's overly stimulated. She's not listening to me. Zazu, come. So now I'm gonna have a treat, something that's motivating for her. Down. Good, down, Zazu, stay. So I did give her a treat on that one, setting her up for success. But both the dogs took the toy and they were playing tug with the toy, so I asked them to come. Uh-oh, I rewarded them and I'm back. But I wanted to let you know what I was doing in that situation when they weren't listening to me. Zazu, sit. Good girl. Down. Zazu, down. Good girl. Good down. Okay, girls. Okay. Okay. Oh, he got it. Oh, boy. When they're playing with friends, I'm always the third one. I'm the third wheel, definitely. So I'm going to get out treats to redirect them. Okay, cookie. You leave it? Leave it? Good, leave it. Good, leave it. Zazu, Zazu. Zazu. Zazu, leave it. Good, leave it. Good, leave it. Zazu, leave it. Perfect demonstration of impulse control or lack thereof. Okay, Zazu, come. Come. I found oftentimes clients like to watch me work through a situation that isn't going very well, so I'm going to show you this clip real quick. There's not a lot of talking to it, but I just want you to see how I'm trying to work through the situation. Sit, Zazu, sit. Sit. Zazu, sit. Good girl, good girl. Okay. In order to set this video and Zazu up for success, I will be right back. I put the toy away, but Zazu loves it so much. She was trying to get it. But you can see how that toy can really be motivating for a lot of dogs. Some dogs, they might not enjoy it. But it's a wonderful way to work on impulse control. And I did use treats to try redirecting the dogs. When the two dogs are together, they're really going to play off of one another. And then when you have a human in there, the human is kind of third wheel. Having the treats can help redirect them and motivate them to pay attention to the human. I've just upped my value for the dogs. So you can use treats, you don't have to use treats. But I have a lot of work to do on that with the dogs.
Okay, here.
Tammy,
Yes.
great video. Just wanted to clarify something that I saw you do. When you took the flirt pole away, that's because Zazu was overstimulated at the very end, and went to a lower reward. Is that what was happening?
Yes, I took it away because she was not
Over,
listening to me. Yes, overstimulated. I was trying to shoot the video, and I did show a lot of the video of me working with the dogs, even though they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, because I find that clients like to see what a trainer does when the dogs don't
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I thought, so at the very end, then you took the flirt pole away because that was too overstimulating at that point, and went to something that's at a lower stimulation. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
That was
Actually,
great. That was great to see that.
I didn't even have the flirt pole with me, but sometimes you just want to end things and come back to that and work what you were working on instead of Zazu was at such a heightened state of arousal. She wasn't doing what I know she knows. She knows down, knows sit, but that flirt pole was just over the top for her. So taking that away so that I could actually communicate with her and wrap up that video is what I needed to do to end the session there.
That was great to see, because most training videos that I see, they see the dog doing it perfectly. And I get really frustrated with that, because it's like, what do you do when you have when the Zazu's like that? And that's normal, but you don't see that in a training video. You see the perfect ending. So what do you do? So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. And yes, I like to point out, there's a lot of editing that can go into those training videos, and um, I really try with what I've been trying to show you these last couple of weeks is how I actually work through the situations, because I know that you guys are in those situations too.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if everybody can just mute, although that, let's see, oh, no, Dorothea. Okay, we'll stick with this. Hi, Janine. Hi, Irene.
Hi.
Um, let's talk about reactivity or impulse control on your walks when you're walking with your dog. Now, books have been written on this subject. So again, me trying to just put this into the next 5 to 10 minutes is just going to give you a tiny glimpse of some things that you can do to help your dogs on your walks if they're reactive. Now, what I mean by reactive is that the dogs are lunging and barking when they see another dog, when they see a person or a bicycle or a motorcycle. They're pulling, they're barking, they have hit the red zone. They can't hear you. Now that's not the time to start training your dogs. The time to start training your dog is when you are at a good distance away from the stimulus. So say your dog is reactive to a dog barking and lunging when they're 5 feet away from another dog on the walk. Where you want to practice is where they're 10 feet away, where they're not reactive. And what you can work on with your dog at that time is look, where the dogs will look at you to get a goodie. You can work on touch, where they touch your hand. That helps redirect them. You can work on find it. You take the treats and you scatter treats along the ground for the dogs to find the goodies on the ground. That can help with the reactive dog on your walk. Another tool that you can use on your walk is the gentle leader. The gentle leader is something that goes around the dog's muzzle, and where the head goes, the body normally goes. It can really help take away the strength of the dog. The one thing I'll say about the gentle leader is that it takes time to train them to accept the gentle leader. A lot of dogs do not like that. So how you can start training that is have them eat with the gentle leader on, or if there's a game that they like to play, like with the flirt pole, you could put the gentle leader on and you're playing with the flirt pole if they like that flirt pole. Irene, I'm saying this for you because you had mentioned that Olive loves the flirt pole. So try putting the gentle leader on and playing with the flirt pole or playing with a toy that your dog likes, and take it off, take the gentle leader off before your dog tries taking it off themselves. Because if you take the gentle leader off when the dogs are trying to get it off, they'll learn that they just need to try getting it off and you'll take it off for them. So take it off before they start to get agitated with the gentle leader. And just know that this is something that you're going to have to train. You're going to have to train your dogs to like and accept. And I'll tell you, my Lonnie girl, she was 16. When she passed, I didn't have to use the gentle leader her entire life, but I would still use it up until she was over 10. And she didn't like the gentle leader, but it really saved me. She was 75-pound pit bull. And when she saw another dog, she really wanted to say hi. And she was just very strong for me. So the gentle leader really helped with that. So that's a tool that you can use on your walks. But having a reactive dog barking and lunging at the end of their leash, try walking them off hours where there's not a lot of stimulation around. Put space in between you and what their triggers are. And it will take time. It will take time. It can be pretty tough. to get exercise for those dogs, again, trying to go off hours or go to a park that there's not a lot of people, keep them on a long leash and let them smell. Let them smell, smell, smell. Smelling can help calm your dogs. That's why tossing treats out and asking them to find it, they're going to smell and look around and look for those treats. Those are ways to reward your dog for not responding to a trigger, and also distract them from the trigger as well. But if they've already started reacting, I consider that they're in the red zone. They're not going to be interested in treats. They're not going to be interested in listening to you. They're over the top at that heightened state of arousal. So work on the find it and work on touch or look at me when they're not overstimulated, and make sure you have a really good, strong foundation before expecting them to respond to either of those requests on your walks where they start reacting. I know that was very, very short and sweet. For the reactive dogs on the walk, again, I could spend an entire webinar on that. But does anybody have any questions on that? Even people watching, I've really been appreciating the feedback. So ask questions, because I can serve all of you better with the questions and responses I'm receiving as well. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Janine? You can-
So when the dog is in the red zone on the walk and they do like lunge, then I have 2 dogs that are now lunging, and there could be 2 other dogs that they're lunging at. And it's usually not aggressive. They just really want to say hi. But what do you do?
Yeah. First of all, if your dogs are barking and lunging, wanting to say hi, never go say hi. Never go say hi. Remember in class when we worked on meeting and greeting? That's how the dog should meet and greet another dog. And if an owner's coming up to you and they're like, "Oh no, it's okay, they can say hi," stop and say, "My dogs are in training. Please wait." And a lot of times dogs will respond to that. But what you want to do is turn and go the other direction, or turn and go up a driveway. Get out of the situation to try helping the dogs calm down. Go behind a parked car or on the side of a parked car to take the visual trigger away from them. If you need to pass by those people, pick up your pace and run past them. And if you're walking 2 dogs and both the dogs are reactive, what you want to try doing is working with one dog to not have them reactive before bringing another dog into it, because guaranteed 2 dogs will respond to one another versus responding to you. So when that happens, they are overstimulated. Turn and walk the other direction, put a barrier between you, or put distance between you any way that you can. If you absolutely have to pass by, try running past what's triggering them.
It seems like dogs are always more aggressive when they're on a leash than if they're not on a leash.
Yeah, because they can't do their normal doggy greetings. I like to use the analogy as if you haven't seen a loved one for a while and you see them down the airport, you're really excited to see them and you start running towards them, but somebody grabbed you and held you back, but you haven't seen this loved one in a while. More than likely you're going to say, "Hey, let me go. I want to see my friend. Let me go." And that's the analogy that I use with the dogs. They're on leash and they're like, "No, let me go. I want to go say hi to my friend." And even though that's not the appropriate way that they should say hello, that's why we try teaching the proper meet and greets in class, and hopefully people will continue with that.
So there is a time where they can, if the dogs are all calm, then they can say hi.
Yes. 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 But don't give them what they want when they're they're throwing a temper tantrum. Just like when you have a kid at Target. I remember Caden way back when, ooh, he threw a temper tantrum because I wouldn't let him get something. And I was so embarrassed. Would have been a lot easier to, yeah, just have it be quiet and then walk out of that store. But I know that I would have lost many, many points for years to come if I would have given in. And I don't give in to him. I don't give in to the dogs. So I really try being consistent.
Is
Yeah.
there a point you give them a treat if you run past the other dogs, and do you reward them at all or nothing?
That's strictly up to you. If they're quiet and calm, then you can definitely reward them. But if you had to run by them to redirect them,
Yeah.
normally I wouldn't. I might say, good puppy at the end and reward that. But come to advanced obedience because we work on that a lot. I'd love to see you there
Okay.
again.
Yeah. Thank you so much for these Zoom meetings. I really am grateful.
Oh, good. Thank you. I
Really
appreciate
grateful.
passing them on. That's going to wrap it up for today, gang. Does anybody have any questions right now? You can definitely email me back and ask questions. Next week is week 5. It's our final week. I'll kind of bring everything together and answer more questions. Talk about calmer dogs during fireworks with the New Year's coming up in Hawaii. That's always an issue. But yeah, I'm here to help. I'm having a lot of fun with everybody. So please, I can help you if you ask more questions too.
Are you going to send out a recap of the past ones so we can send it on to people?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks.
And Dorothea definitely motivated me today because she's like, I had to go all the way back into my emails and look for your login, but I meant to get that. Anyway,
Nope, no worries.
my Christmas decorations are still in the box. Oh no. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording here.